Welcome back to another episode of the Astrology Magic Podcast, where we talk about how to use astrology to create magic in your life. And I haven't been here in a really long time because I didn't want to record a podcast anymore. And I just wanted to write on Substack. But now I want to say things on my voice again. So here I am again, and I'm with my boyfriend, Ryan. We're all in the spinning wheel of death. Our computer's crashing and we're loading. And that's what our conversation is going to be kind of about today, how we're in a collective loading of our true selves. Like, even as we're starting this podcast today, we have Venus. So, Venus is the planet of relationships, love, beauty, pleasure, harmony, art, like the things, like just beauty out in the world, art, how art makes things more beautiful. And Venus is in Aries, which is the sign of the self. Venus is also our self-worth. And it's with Neptune, which I was just explaining to Ryan. Neptune is the oneness. It is the collective consciousness. It is every possibility that there is out there. It is all that has been and all that ever will be. Neptune is the sea that connects us all. It is just as much, it can be superficial just as much as it can be deep. Like, think about how you can have an ocean. It can be shallow and a lot of things can be at the surface, but also there's like a lot of cool shit in the deep depths of the ocean where all those little fish that light up live. And then we also have Saturn there, all in Aries. And so Ryan doesn't know astrology, but me and him have this conversation a lot. So we're going to see how we can meet in the middle, where I'm going to talk about the astrology going on right now. And I don't know. We're going to see what happens, I guess. So
for any of you guys that maybe are like me, that, I understand a small amount, like a surface level, about astrology. I believe in it. It's affected my life in many amazing ways, especially living with Rachel and her having really cool toys and tools like the Certainty Oracle. I remember one night I was kind of going through just a frustrating day, and she came in and she was all excited, like, "Hey, do you want to try my new thing out?" And, I was like, it's not going to help me. I don't even know why I'd try. And so she gives me it, and I go make a bag, because if you guys know me, I like to connect cannabis when it comes to my inner work. And so I connect with a little cannabis, and the first question I ask this thing, it gives me a follow-up. I forget what it was. And then I answer another thing, gives me a couple other follow-ups. And then it spits this description out, and it just reads me to a T. And so, all suffice to say, I understand the power of astrology, even if I don't understand the inner workings of astrology to the depth that Rachel would know. And so my goal here is to be able to see what she's saying and be able to put it in maybe other contexts, other terms that can help those of us out there that aren't masters of astrology like Rachel and a lot of our other listeners, to be able to understand the gravity and the context of what we're talking about. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, so something I've been talking about with Ryan a lot is me and Ryan have done a lot of plant medicine together. We've done a lot of mushrooms, high doses of mushrooms. And in my experience, a few different times on mushrooms, I have experienced the oneness, but I didn't remember what the oneness felt like. I remember what it felt like. I remember I experienced it, but I didn't remember all of the information that came with it when I wasn't tripping anymore. And recently, I feel like I've been remembering all the information that came with it. And so I'm doing my best to describe it because it literally feels like I feel like this is downloading into me because it's Saturn and Neptune combined in Aries. So if Aries is ourself, Neptune is the oneness fabric, and Saturn is the structures that's manifested into our material reality. You know, like if Neptune is spirit, it's not manifested into our physical reality, but that's what Saturn is it is the structure that actually manifests something tangible. So when they're together, it's like we're finding the alignment of spirit within tangible structures of reality, which are new right now because they're Saturn. We're building new ones, but also we're finding who we are within those structures, each individual. Okay, so the way the information has been coming back to me is that we are really all one. Like me and Ryan are the same person. Me and you listening are the same person. We are all the Neptune fabric, the spirit. But when we're born into a body, which is the Saturn structure. Brian was born into his body and I was born into my body, but we're literally the same fabric, just getting shoved into two different shaped things that have different pathways inside themselves. So when we were born, we were cut off from Neptune's vastness. We were cut off from the fullness of who we are, you, me, and Ryan, by being shoved into our individual bodies. And we came here to learn about that part of the whole. So I came here to learn to be Rachel and all that is in this part of the oneness of every possibility. And Ryan came here to learn to be Ryan, right? Now, Saturn is the planet. Whatever Saturn does in the sky and what it's doing in our birth chart makes us want to compare ourselves to others because we came here to learn about love, right? I talked about how Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. It is unconditional love because it is the unconditional love of the oneness. But we can't just learn about unconditional love when we're in the oneness because there's nothing to compare it to. There's just love. It's like saying a fish in water. Like a fish doesn't know it's in water. It literally just exists in water, just like we exist in air. We didn't know it was air. It's just us. It's all connected, you know? Like you don't know who you are. You're in it. And so Saturn can make us compare to other people because that is what we came here to learn here on Earth. We came here to learn what it feels like to be separated from love so we can learn what it feels like to have to make our way back to love. We can learn the contrast, that's Saturn. And that contrast was introduced to us through the structures in our body, which I look at as Saturn and I look at as our birth chart. So all the different lessons are lined up in our birth chart, and it's because we signed up to learn that part of Source. Am I repeating myself too much, or are you following?
No, I think this is great. Yeah, I think this is great.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And with Saturn and Aries, we're learning the boundaries of who you really are, like your deepest truth. The structure you came here to learn about and fill while you're here on Earth right now from the oneness is learning about itself, and we're creating new structures by getting more in tuned with who we are right now, coming back to the bones of the structure as opposed to trying to compare ourselves to other people and be like them, because I didn't come here to learn Ryan's lessons. Me and Ryan are the same person, you know? Like if I was a homeless man a homeless man on the street struggling with drugs and alcohol who can't get off the street, you, me, and Ryan are all that homeless man. So if we were put in the homeless man's body, we'd be struggling too. You know, does this make sense too?
We'd have a potential to struggle. I mean, again, there is the idea of free will. There is the idea of, you know, how you make sense of experiences. And, you know, I'll say this real quick because I know you're in the middle of a point. It's kind of like why, for instance, I can talk about my dad passing away from brain cancer. And yeah, it's challenging to talk about, but I can talk about it. Whereas for other family members, they're still existing on the day he passed away. They haven't processed that yet. And as a result of that, the experience of my father passing even though it's objective, my dad died, right? There's no subjectivity there. He's dead. The way it's perceived subjectively is different based on the individual factors that come from, say, Saturn, based on your individual makeup that you chose to come in with. But you do have an ability to kind of like choose within that construct. But at the same time, the lessons, like for instance, my dad passing away was not something I could avoid. It was going to happen. But the way in which I interpret it is my quote unquote free will to exist within my Saturn placement, let's say, or Saturn, how do I say this correctly? Like Saturn makeup, I guess you would say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so each Saturn person has free will, but the thing is that because we're all one, if someone took spirit out of Ryan and put it into the homeless man, Ryan would feel like the homeless man. And he would have the same free will and thought processes and capabilities as the homeless man. So I get what you're saying, and I think that if you stayed inside Ryan right now and you went to the homeless man, you could actually impact the homeless man because you have a different structure, you have a different connection to the oneness and what's possible, and every person has free will. So your energy could affect the homeless man, but you're no different than the homeless man. Like literally, if we took you out of Ryan and we put you into the homeless man, you'll still be struggling with the same things as the homeless man. I don't care if you have free will because we're all one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think if you were to take my spirit out of me and put it in the homeless man, the opportunity for that homeless man now with a different subjective view of the universe would be to make potentially different decisions, choose to have a different mindset. But again, like right at face value, you'd be in the same spot. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's actually not. That's what I keep trying to express. It's like deeper than what I think we're talking about right now. So I'm really glad we're having this conversation so we can understand each other. I don't believe, like from my experience on these mushrooms and the things that are coming back, I don't believe we have separate souls. I literally believe we are all one fabric. And that fabric is getting pushed up into different canals. And that when we take the fabric out of Ryan, Ryan returns to oneness. But that fabric that was inside the structure of Ryan is literally the same exact starting fabric as the structure that went into the homeless man. And so you'll still start at the same starting point as this homeless man. That homeless man could have infinite ways his life plays out, but you're not going to remember Ryan, and you're not going to have Ryan as a past history automatically to bring in, because when you return to the oneness, you return to all of us. So like my past lives are the same as Ryan's past lives, are the same as yours past lives. And this is why God can't judge, and we can't judge other people. Because even if I took Rachel out of me right now, I've transformed a lot of things, and I try to put myself inside the homeless man, I can't. Literally, that's what I'm trying to say, is that I don't see us having different spirits. I see us being oneness. So there is no judgment. There's no, I have free will and this is who I am. So if you put my spirit inside the homeless man, I could probably fix the homeless man's life, or maybe I would have done his life differently. No, because literally we are the homeless man. Do you get what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I imagine what you were saying. I think I use different terminologies to discuss this. For me, spirit is the oneness that is in all of us. It's the same exact power source. If you think about a computer, right? You have the computer itself, which is the physical body. You have the operating systems on that computer, which I would reference as the soul. All right. And then you have the electricity powering the computer. And that I reference as spirit. So for me, and again, these are just terminologies, guys. It doesn't really matter how we think about it. We're talking about the same thing. But for me, I understand why if you just took the energy and you plugged it into a different computer, it would still be the same voltage. It would still have the same wattage, et cetera. It's the same battery pack. Yet at the same time, once the computer is powered with energy, the person, the subjective view of God in the equation, gets to choose what programs he or she uses. Like I have friends that use Logic Pro, for instance, right? And they edit their own music, make their own music, etc. I've been really on a music kick, guys. So that's what I'm going to bring up as an example today. Now, I don't know yet how to use Logic Pro. So if I go over to their computer and I try to use Logic Pro, it might as well be in Chinese. Okay? It's not that the computer itself having a program on it is going to make anyone be able to understand it. It's subjective for that person. Because even if you take 3 people that do understand Logic Pro, they're going to understand it differently. They might have different tricks or different ways in which they operate on that same program coming from the ultimate universal source of spirit and power. Does that make sense?
It does. I think I have a question for you to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So are you saying that literally the source that's been within you, even the soul, like literally everything that makes up Ryan, except for the life experiences, the inclinations, all the energies that live inside Ryan, are the same ones that live inside the homeless man, but he's given completely different operating instructions?
No, not necessarily. Like, yes and no. Because there's, like, for instance, right? When I was born, I like the color blue. I never learned that anywhere. I just, blue is my favorite color. But I would say that blue being my favorite color is a subjective viewpoint, right? Like, blue is not objectively the best color, but I chose to believe it was, right? From my own makeup, whatever that was. Maybe I saw blue as an early age. I don't know. I don't remember. It feels like I came into this lifetime with that. Now, you can argue maybe not. Maybe it was unconscious learning. I was young, whatever. But the way that I make sense of it is that blue that I like is not objectively the best color, but I chose for it to be the best color in my subjective view. And those things that I choose to make my life awesome and they make my life awesome, I would reference as part of my soul. So soul to me is almost like what you're talking about with Saturn. It's like the things that you get, like for instance, if your life journey is going to be a Sherpa, for instance, right? And you know, when you're choosing to come down and incarnate in the human form, if you believe that we have an opportunity to kind of choose what we're going to do, maybe we don't, right? I don't know. But if you're going to choose this, just for sake of example, maybe you choose to get born into a body that's really athletic, all right? Or maybe you choose to get born into a body, actually, this is the way it would do. You choose to be born into a body where you're going to enjoy being athletic. And so that natural enjoyment that you don't have to work for or anything would then be part of your soul. It's like kind of the tools that are going to be put into you, or that you're going to put in, or God's going to put in, that are going to allow you an opportunity to live out your highest expression. But again, at the end of the day, like you said before, we have infinite different expressions. You know, even the homeless person on the street, he could have been born into a really healthy family, done all the quote unquote right things, and still ended up homeless. Why? Well, because he chose different things based on his soul's evolution. Now, again, the beautiful thing is there is no right or wrong. So, you know, one thing that and I know this isn't exactly what you're saying, but I figured I'd throw in it just to make sense here. Just so we're all aware here, we're not saying the homeless man on the street is not still a very beneficial experience for God. Because if you're thinking about Neptune, right, and you have everything and also nothing at the same time, it's a very paradoxical thing, but let's just talk about everything. If you have everything, well, any amount of something will teach you about everything. So whether it's the expression of Gandhi, whether it's the expression of the homeless man in the street, we in our humanness may judge like, oh, I don't want to be that. I do want to be this. But when in doubt, zoom out. God's like, it's all teaching it about itself. So I figured.
Yeah, so we're all God, and we all entered into these different bodies to have these different experiences because we wanted to learn about that experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you. So that's totally it. So Saturn. So Ryan looks at Saturn as the soul. I look at Saturn as a birth chart, as a structure. Or if I think about like a human meat suit. So that's the terminology we're using. And when I'm thinking, this was another layer to it, is with Aries is the sign of the self, and it wants to be selfish, and really like it's about the inward and self journey first. And so whenever we start the zodiac and we build a foundation for something, we're going to start with Aries because Aries is the start of the zodiac. It is the foundation that builds on all other energies. And so our self and getting in touch with who we are, the lessons we came here to learn, the body we came here to be in, the soul we came here to experience. Because I actually don't believe who you are is your soul forever. Your soul is just like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like you got popped out of like a 3D printer. Yeah, you got popped out of a 3D printer, out of the web of all of the printing, and that print will always exist, but it won't be born again. And we've all had the same past lives, and we'll all have the same future lives. We're all the same person. It's just that new pop-ups. New 3D prints are getting thrown out all the time, you know, and those 3D prints will always exist, and they have their own Akashic records. So
exactly. Like, I think that the soul is a big yes and to me. It's almost like when I was a kid, I would go to the Museum of Science, which for you guys that aren't in Boston, I'm sorry for you because you missed out on the best field trips ever. But at the Museum of Science, did you ever go there, Rachel? Did you ever go to the
yeah,
Museum of Science? Okay.
yeah.
Do you remember that room where you could like jump up and it would take a picture of your shadow? And it would be like, there was a room there where it would have this like snapshot. And so your friends would go in there, you'd all jump up and it would take a snapshot of you. So imagine that was the first picture you ever got taken of you. That's essentially you to anyone looking at you is that snapshot. But if you take a picture in the same place, say a year later, well, now you're taller. You might do a different position. You might do a different pose. And so your soul is always evolving. It's kind of like, it's not a static thing. Like, you know, same with Saturn, right? Like you might get born into life, let's say having a knack for entrepreneurship. Okay, let's say that. But you might choose to use that skill to get into being a criminal, right? So that skill that was once like, oh, I want to do things my own way, and that was what your soul was at first, let's say one aspect of it, one very few aspect of it, now has become something different, but it started from where you started, right? So that original image that you get shot with that essentially becomes your soul can continue to grow. And that's like the subjective part of life, I think.
So that's what I was talking about, how we're all one, but we can't learn lessons unless we're put into a body.
Exactly.
And then we're put into a body so that our oneness can learn through friction over time, that experience of being that part of oneness, and learn the contrast. Because again, Saturn is comparison, contrast, the structure of what love is versus what love isn't for that part of source. And so that part of source is only going to evolve up to that place that that human is alive. And then, you know, source will continue to throw humans out, and that part of source will probably get visited again, but maybe in a different human. And then it will evolve from there.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I'll throw in here that is just a caveat that, because you mentioned many of our psychedelic experiences, you know, one of the reasons that I haven't been called to as much deep psychedelic experiences like 5-MeO DMT or ayahuasca or any of these like really deep experiences is because I realized in one of these experiences that, you know, if we've been there forever, oneness forever, that's where we still are right now, right? We've always been there. We always will be. It's infinity. It never stops. It never ends. If we've been there forever, and yet we're playing a game, we probably got bored a little bit of being everything and nothing, oneness, infinity. And so what's the only game left to play when you're everything? Well, the only game left to play is to play something. And so we came down here for a snapshot in time, maybe 100 years if we're lucky, hopefully 150 maybe. And then we're back to oneness. We're back to infinity, where we've always been, where we always will be. So to me, when I realized that, I was like, wait a minute, I now want to start doing things that make this experience more enjoyable for me, because I'm only playing this game for a little while. And if I'm just bypassing, being like, I just need to get back to being home, I need to get back there, it's like, no, man, enjoy the game. You're meant to play the game. The game's not meant to play you. And so I think that that's one of the main reasons I love cannabis so much, just to throw that out there, because you guys know I'm a cannabis coach, is because it's one of the only medicines I find that really helps me connect to Mother Earth, to Ryan, to this subjective view. Now, I understand that's not who I really am, but I also signed up to play a game. And so right now I'm choosing to play the game.
Yeah. And so back to this Aries thing too, is we're learning to play the game as the part of source we came here to incarnate, and to stop comparing ourselves to all the other parts of source, because literally we're all those other parts, and we didn't come here to learn about those other parts, man. We came here to learn about this part. And so that is why we're in this phase with the astrology right now, is it's really trying to connect each individual soul or human meat suit structure or consciousness structure, because even this table, I imagine, is learning lessons that I'm on right now. It's alive. It's also us. Whatever structure we're in, it's wanting us to get to the bones right now and to explore what is truly us, so we can learn the lessons we came here to learn and stop getting distracted with everyone else's path. And so if we think about Neptune with Saturn, that's what it's doing. Neptune is providing the access to the oneness, but in Aries, it's ourself. Saturn is trying to help us put the boundaries to find ourselves. And I think this is actually something I think you and I, Ryan, can talk about, because I'm sure a lot of people listening to this podcast have had this experience too. But if I think about what has connected me to myself, is going all in into whatever direction my energy wants to move, even if it's not completely right? Saturn wants to get it right, but that's not the point. That's a Saturn block. Saturn only finds its boundaries within the vastness by going all in a direction and seeing what worked and seeing what didn't work, and often falling on its face. And then Saturn moves into the complete opposite direction. It's like, okay, we'll do the complete opposite and go all in this way. And it learns what's for me, what's not for me. This is why it requires Aries bravery, right? And then once you've gone in two directions, complete opposites all the way, now you have so much closer of an idea of who you are, because you found what is you and what's not you. But it came through a lot of friction and a lot of pain and a lot of surrender and not knowing the path. Right? Like it came through unfolding out of the unknown instead of you knowing the exact perfect path. So like, for example, I think about me on my health food journey. I was obese when I was a kid. I overate. I literally worked my ass off, went to weight loss camp, lost weight, went anorexic and body dysmorphia and all the different things, and then became so knowledgeable in nutrition, learned all of it. And I never found my answer. I thought an answer was out there. And it was when I finally literally thought I learned everything possible and I couldn't anymore and I surrendered, that I was like, well, that was all stupid and none of that worked. But I was like, these couple things did work. I started implementing them, and then my life started being more ease because I connected to the part of the fabric that I was born to be. But I couldn't have done that if I didn't go so intensely and fully into each experience that I had to learn every crevice of it. And that's what I think a lot of us are asked to do right now. We're in the unknown. It feels scary. It feels heavy. We don't know what to do. And that's why me and Ryan are recording this podcast right now. Ryan was saying how he was feeling anxious about getting a podcast out. I was saying, I don't really know what to do. I said, I feel called to do this. Instead of thinking about it, do you want to just see what happens?
Fuck around, find out.
Yeah.
One of the analogies that came to me, because I love to speak in analogies, I think it helps me understand things anyway, and hopefully some of you listeners as well, is the idea of a buffet. Okay, so let's picture I don't know, I don't think the age really matters. Let's picture you're 10 years old, okay? And you are somewhere that has a buffet, okay? And so you're in line to go to this buffet. And maybe because you're at an early age, you're asking people around you, like, what should I get on this buffet? Because maybe it's just like, it's a little paralyzing for you. You've never had the option to get 30 different foods at once. So you're asking, your family, maybe you're asking even random people, like, what do you like? What do you like? Right? Because deep down, you don't really know what the right choice is for you, because you're trying to think about it. You're trying to think about what is the right choice here, as if there is a right choice. And like one of my favorite quotes that you say is, there is no right or wrong. So if you want to be right, paradoxically, you're wrong. And so you go through life thinking there's a right way for a while, all right, a right food to eat. And so maybe you're at this buffet, let's say for a week, okay? Like you're at this hotel that has a buffet. So the first day you're asking around, what's right, what's right? And you get a bunch of stuff that other people like, and you try it all out and you're like, that wasn't a good meal. So maybe the next day you walk out of the buffet and you're like, I'm not going to ask anyone, but I'm going to go on what I think is good for me. Mom's always said only have one starch, so I'm going to get potatoes. Okay. Mom's always said protein's important, so I'm going to get some protein. Okay. Right. And maybe you get some veggies or whatever. And you go back and you eat that and you're like, maybe it was closer, but it's not really what I want. And maybe the third day you walk up there and maybe you just have a premonition and you just start looking at the food. And you start scanning it with your eyes. And you're like, that color resonates to me. I'm going to grab some of that. And then maybe you're like, ooh, I like the way that shine looks on that chicken. I'm going to grab some of that. And then you're like, oh, what's that smell? Oh, man, those collard greens or whatever look amazing. And now you're going based on your intuition. There is no reason for it, right? It's not because you only need one starch. It's not because I need protein to build muscle. You're just going based off of what you're feeling is right for you. And what you feel is right for you on the third day might be totally different than the fourth day, but the process is the same. The process becomes, can I tune into myself and figure out what I want? And so I think when we're talking about this kind of past of a lot of us and many people in society still doing this, like comparing what we think is right to other people around us, choosing based on logic what we think is going to be best for us, which I definitely had a challenge with being a weightlifter and everything. I got to eat my broccoli and chicken and all this shit when I hated doing that. And so if you want a fast way to not be consistent with anything, make yourself hate it, make it not fun. And so now we extrapolate this analogy into life in general. All right. And let's also picture before we do this, that as you're at this buffet, there's people coming up to you being like, hey, did you hear what so-and-so said? Hey, did you hear what was on the news? And so you're constantly getting distracted away from your main mission, which is to satiate yourself based on your own intuition. All right. So now you have all these distractions, and now we extrapolate this into life. Okay. This is where a lot of people get fucked up because, like you were saying, there's very specific things that we have that we can enact while we're here to change the world forever. Okay. And maybe that's not even the purpose of it. Maybe it's just a side effect. Like, when you meet someone who's really themselves, how it affects the room around them. They're not trying, because it's, again, trying would be the complete opposite. They've surrendered to who they are, and now they're magnetic.
It's the ease of being you. It's a surrender process rather than a control, a force plan, because surrender is the most sustainable force on this planet. And that's what Saturn wants. It wants you to find the most sustainable path, the one that you could do forever, because you're not just, like Ryan said, forcing yourself to do the boring plan, like the same things over and over. Sustainability is a dance between what feels right and your body needs. Because let's think about this too in terms of sometimes I really do want to eat a chocolate cake and I want to eat as much of it as I want. And maybe I do feel a little yucky after that. Well, tomorrow I'm not going to go to the gym because I'm going to feel fat. I'm going to walk and I'm going to eat well because I want to feel better. It's about, does that make sense? It's it doesn't mean don't do hard things. It means meet where you're at, honor where you're at.
And have compassion for yourself, right?
Yeah.
When you notice, oh, I did that thing again, just giggle with yourself because, again, like we were talking about
or have compassion and love that you did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that you ate all that cake and be like, wow, that was a great night. But I feel a little unbalanced now. So I'm coming back into balance. And again, we're talking about Venus is with Saturn and Neptune right now. Venus wants that balance and harmony. That's how Venus receives its abundance in this life.
And think about this too, and then I'll wrap up with this. But, think about this, right? If oneness is the idea and epitome of remembering, okay? Because when you're in oneness, you're in oneness. Right? There's no forgetting you're in oneness. But when you're in somethingness, the paradox is you're not really something. You are everything, but you're playing a game in which you seem like something, some person, a person, right? And so the process of this world, I really feel, is two parts. Because I like to simplify and make efficient systems for my own life, because there's just a lot to think about. It's forgetting or remembering. So maybe you've already had the experience where you've eaten a lot of chocolate cake before and you didn't feel the best after, right? And so you've already had that experience, but maybe you forget and maybe you eat the chocolate cake because maybe you're eating some feelings or whatever happens, or you just eat it, right? You just fuck around and find out. The next day, when you wake up, your body's going to give you the opportunity to remember. But, there's a lot of facets that can come into play. If you have limiting beliefs, unconscious stories, whatever, you might have a challenge remembering that. But a clear vessel will help you wake up and go, ooh, yeah, I'm not going to do that again tonight. It doesn't mean you regret it. Doesn't mean you have to be like, oh, I'm a shitty person for doing that. No, it's just like,
you're getting fat and now have to reduce your calories. Yeah, exactly. It's not about that.
Yeah, exactly. It's, again, the punishment's got to fit the crime respectively, right? And so in this context, I'm not talking about punishment, but for instance, oh, what did I learn? Okay, eating that much chocolate cake still doesn't make me feel the best. So I can still have chocolate cake. Just next time, maybe I'll try half of what I had this time. And maybe I learned that, hey, maybe I'm actually allergic to chocolate. Maybe I like vanilla cake in general. But if we can just look at it like trying on things at a dressing room, right? When we go to a clothing store, we're picking things out. And we're like, ooh, this is cute. Ooh, this is going to look good. And sometimes we go to the dressing room, we put it on and we're like, nah, How much thought do we put into that? And we're like, oh my God, we're the worst. How could we ever
Well,
decide
some
that
people
about
who have
ourselves?
body dysmorphia, because I can speak for myself, might have
Yeah, exactly.
spiraled in the
And so that
past.
would be a distortion,
And
right?
that's
So
also a comparison of where we're learning to love ourselves, because that distortion was from my parents growing up. Not that
yeah,
they love me and they're awesome, but like also society, right? Like that distortion wasn't mine and my truth. And I don't have that distortion anymore. Literally, I could be any size. And there's a deeper part of me that feels attractive because I've found that part of my journey already. I found who I am within that, but I didn't used to have that. I used to need myself to look a certain way in the mirror to feel a certain way, but now it's self-sourced. That's what we mean by sustainable.
yeah, that makes perfect sense. And what I would say to that too is that, I think the gift that inner work gives others, right? Because again, others, I'll say in quotations because there is no other. But while we're playing the game, we'll just talk in terminologies that people will understand. There are others, okay? So, like in the game, me and Rachel are different people. I'm Ryan Sprague. She's Rachel Baratimos.
We love
But
each other.
and we love each other, and we have a little puppy named Pierre. But here's the benefit, right? Because if you've gone through body dysmorphia, okay, and you've, you know, been grateful to your parents, like, hey, you guys passed this along to me because you obviously imagined that I could solve it. That's why I ended up with it. That's how I believe it anyway. And so
Yeah,
now
it's part of
you've
the
solved that.
teaching. It's part of the lessons of love we came here to learn.
Yeah. And so now you've solved that in your life. If you go to the dressing room and someone doesn't fit right, you don't think like, oh my God, my body, all this stuff anymore. That once you did, right? So
Mhm.
now, if you come around other people that are also dealing with what you used to deal with, you are a clearer vessel. And you don't even need to say anything for these people, these women, let's say, or men, because men, I definitely had body dysmorphia too. There's just something they'll feel around you where it's like, I just feel safe being around Rachel. And maybe sometime you guys actually talk about this and you have the opportunity to share with them your experience. And maybe if it's the right time and they choose to with their own free will, they can choose to either open up to you or maybe it just rapidly heals, spontaneous healing, whatever. But I think that the goal of like what I think about with astrology, like why would someone look to learn astrology? Why would someone look to work with plant medicine? Why would someone look to really do anything in life? It's to realize that love is not something that's conditional, right? Like you were saying, body dysmorphia is to me, at least how I thought about it when I had it hard,
It's conditional
was like
love. It's
it's like
conditional. It's
if
like
I look this way, then I can feel proud of myself. It's a if this, then that. But when you heal that, what are you really healing? You're healing the belief
something.
that love is conditional, you
Yeah,
know?
and when you realize, oh, I made love conditional on my body, so then I only allowed myself to eat certain foods and do this. Like I remember the first time I found food freedom, I was on paleo. It wasn't complete. I didn't have. I thought I was free then because I had the hot body and it looked good and it was easy and I could eat whatever I want. Blah blah blah. But in a way, there were still boundaries on me. Like it's like I had to eat that way, right? But now where I'm at with it is I've gone even deeper, and it's like yeah, paleo was a form of loving myself because it was feeding myself with nutritious foods, but a part of it was still not loving because I needed it. It was more rigid, right? Like I needed it
Hmm.
to be that way.
Hmm.
And now I've softened it even deeper. So it's like a process, right? It's like not all going to happen at once. Where now I allow all foods, but I just now know the feeling of what it feels like to feel clean and good in my body. And so now it's like I have everything available to me and there's even less stress around it. And because I've learned to love myself on such a deep level in that way, when to feed myself, how to work out. Like I shared this on my story the other day. I've been working out with the same boring workout every day, like for years. And it started getting really tiring and I couldn't do it anymore. And I started feeling really gross and not good anymore. And so I started going to the gym and being like, well, what's the next thing I want to do? Instead of having the same plan and just following my energy, my workouts transformed because I gave myself a buffet. I didn't force it to stick into a structure. It was one after the other, and and now I'm feeling so good again. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And what I would say there is that you've come back to having faith in yourself because now you know yourself well enough that if you wake up and you look in the fridge, maybe one day you eat more like a vegan, right? But not because you're
Mm-hmm.
vegan, but because that's what felt right to your body that day. Maybe the next day, and I know you don't eat steak, but just for sake of conversation, let's say you wake up and you're like, hey, you know what?
It's a
Like,
texture thing, guys.
yeah, it's a texture thing. It's really ground beef and stuff. But, maybe you wake up and you're like, hey, I feel like having meat all day. But again, not because you're taking on the identity of I'm carnivore, but just because you're like, that's what my body feels like today. And then maybe the next day you're having cake for breakfast. Like at the end of the day, if you can really, like, what are we really talking about here? We're talking about having faith.
And connecting to self. Faith and connection to yourself.
Exactly.
And what
Like
your energy is telling you.
Yeah. Faith that your answers that you find inside yourself are right, but not because they're right objectively, because there is no objective truth here, but because they're right for you. And now when you go into the world and you see someone who's like, oh, I only eat vegan or whatever, you can have compassion, realizing like, oh, I remember when I had to have those kind of rules in my life, and I get it. It's a stepping stone.
And Saturn rules, guys.
Yeah. And
we
so, like,
all
again,
do these rules with ourselves until we learn we soften with Neptune, the boundary.
Exactly. Like, I used to have to work out 6 days per week until I realized that actually I wasn't working out because my body needed 6 days to work out. I was working out because I had body dysmorphia and I didn't think I deserved love or could pull hot women, just to be honest, if I wasn't ripped. Now, again, what that really was even that was a projection. It was really just, I didn't know if I could love myself if I didn't look in the mirror and see what I thought made a man. And so now when I see other men, let's say, because I'm a man in this lifetime, that are going to the gym and like, especially as they get older, like, 35 to 40, and they're still like really trying, like their whole life is the gym. It's like, yeah, I understand why that probably isn't what their soul is telling them. Like, I remember, I know this person triggers a lot of people, but he does have some good lines every once in a while. Andrew Tate talked about this. He's like, listen, man, I'll go to the gym. I'll move my body every day, but I'm not one of those fucking goofballs that's spending 5 hours in the gym and taking ab photos. He's like, I get in and I get the fuck out because the gym for me is a pathway to me being able to have energy to do what I'm put on the earth to do. And one of those things, yes, is working out, but I have a lot of other things too. And life is about balance. So now I'm looking at what do I really like to do in terms of moving my body. It's like I love being flexible. I love being strong so I can hike. I can pick you up like a feather. Like those are the reasons I work out now. But also I know if I go too deep into working out because I allowed myself to go there. So again, let's talk about something that now I wouldn't do, but I don't regret it. It's like I realized that my body never felt fucking worse when I was working out 6 days a week. Like
me too.
I was constantly having injuries and tendonitis and all these things. And actually, when I stopped working out as much and I let my body recover more, I actually got bigger muscles. I got way more toned. It's
show
actually
up
hilarious.
in your muscles since the video will be up, and I don't know.
Well, I got a sweatshirt on,
Still lift it up.
All right.
My boyfriend's got muscles. Show it.
All right. I guess I'm turning into a male stripper here for you guys. Look what Rachel does.
But it's only to show that, like, people ask how Ryan gets this body. Like, it's love. It's literally him following his body. He's not going 6 days a week like you guys think. Like, he's really balanced.
And also, I really love myself. And so I love myself enough to know that, like, when I wake up, and fortunately, because of the routines I have and the things I found that do work for me, 99.9% of the time, I can go with a general schedule. Like, I see my trainer 2 times a week, and then I do my own workout on Saturdays, and then I do yoga a couple days and other stuff. So I move my body every day. I'm just not lifting weights every day.
Yeah, we'll always move our body because our body needs that to feel good.
Yeah,
like,
I feel
even
good
if it's not working out hard 6 days a week like we used to, it's like moving our body because that's love.
But it's funny because, and you've been attest to this, I won't mention any names, but there are some friends I have that are like obsessed with like, dude, how do you get the body you have? Like, how do you get the fat percentage? And what are you doing with your macros? I'm like, dude, I don't think about any of that, dude. I literally have never found my macros. I don't do cuts and bulks. I don't do any of that shit. And it's funny because all the people that swear by that stuff are always asking me how I get the body I get. And I'm like, because I'm not going off of a random system that some other dude created.
There's nothing right. This is such a good example because nothing is right. Literally, you have your own path.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now. I think this whole conversation me and Ryan are having is just to express, a lot of people feel so in the unknown right now, including us. It's why we hopped on here and we're like, let's just see what happens on this podcast because we don't even know. Like, no one knows. We're starting from seedling underground right now, guys. But based on the astrology and like the things we talked about today, that's what's in the air right now. Is it's like, can you really get to those deeper layers and start trusting the things you feel? And just Aries, be bold, be brave, just do it and see what happens over the long game. You know, Aries, the downfall of Aries, especially Saturn and Aries, is Aries will lose steam quickly and be like, oh, that's not working, this, and just like hop around. But like, we need to have faith, and Saturn needs time, and we need to simplify. Uranus is in Taurus right now. Our breakthroughs are going to come from simplifying. Change one thing at a time. Record this one podcast like me and him did. Do that one thing and see what your energy does. You don't need to know the long game plan. It's just the next best thing. And that's where really I have to say to end on. But what do you have to say?
Well, I'll give a great example of this too, because for those that either work with me one-on-one or in one of my programs, I talk about this all the time because, you know, what I really love doing in life more than anything is helping make sense of my own reality and helping other people make sense of their reality, because it can be confusing, right? And that's part of the game, part of the fun. Like, if it was easy, it'd be boring, all right? We come from everything, all right? It's got to take a lot to keep our attention. So for me, I've been a guitar player for years. When I was 15, I started playing, and I had a couple friends that were like a year and a half or 2 years already into playing. So I decided I got to catch up quick. So I'd play, like, no joke, 6 hours a day. And I did that for about 5 to 6 years. And then around 20, I had other interests pop up, one of them being working out. But again, like I shared with Rachel, it wasn't from a place of like, hey, I want to move my body and feel great. It was like, yo, the dudes on the Jersey Shore get tons of chicks and they're ripped. So I got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I can have so much joy looking back at 20-year-old Ryan, and I don't regret anything. And also, I kind of let guitar fall to the wayside for about 8 years or so. I would still pick it up, jam around, maybe play a couple minutes, but it wasn't consistent. And for anyone that wants to get good at something, you know that the path is consistency, right? Especially with an instrument. Like, there are certain things where, yes, like, you know, spending 10 hours in front of a computer isn't necessarily going to make you better at operating the computer. With an instrument, yeah, it's pretty much like you just got to get rest in. So anyway, I was lacking that structure for a while, but there was a lot of things kind of boiling together. Number one, I had an insecurity around just being seen. Okay, that's been a big thing I've overcome in the past 6 years. So that was working against me. But also, like, I'd kind of been always someone that had a little bit of anxiety, was a little bit afraid of putting myself out there. So I started going to clubs. I started partying late. It was fun. And fortunately, I got into health right before that. So I never let it go too crazy. I'd never have too many drinks in the club, whatever. But, that was really healing for me, like being around women and being like, hey, like, I can talk to women and like all these things. So I don't regret anything. But when you and I moved in together about 4 years ago now, 3.5, 4 years ago, I just all of a sudden got the thing of like, hey, I want to do this. I want to commit. And first I said to playing an hour a day. Now, the thing was that sounded like a great goal when I was all high on dopamine. But the next day, it was too big of a shift to make, like from not playing at all for years pretty much to like an hour a day. And so I fucked around with this for a couple of months, wasn't staying consistent. And the first kind of cue I felt was like, ah, fuck, I'll deal with that later. But that was the old pattern. So I decided, okay, what if I make a new goal, which, like we're talking about here, is what if I don't have an end goal of this? Like, what if it's not to become a famous musician or to even be able to shred? What if I just make a goal to pick up the guitar once per day? So my minimum is 1 second per day of playing. And that transformed everything for me, because now I got to have fun with it again. I got to just pick up the guitar, and some days I literally picked it up, strummed, and put it away. But I knew that I was hitting my goal every day. And this is why one of the things I tell my clients is like, make small goals that you can just smash, because then you get momentum going.
Next best step, and then your energy will tell you what to do with it next, and it will bring you places you would have never thought.
Exactly. And so then, about a year into that, like, hey, I just want to pick up the guitar and play every day. It felt right for me to be like, I can make this a half hour now, because I knew I had it. I knew I had it again. I had stayed consistent. So I made it a half hour, and that was good. And then the beginning of last year, so about 13 months ago, I was like, all right, now I'm starting to get, and this feeling that I get sometimes, like now I get that I want to cover every inch of the driveway, type feeling, which I'll share that story after, because you guys are probably confused what the fuck I mean by that. But I got that like obsessive kind of like OCD, but in a good way. Like it wasn't from a place of like, oh, I suck at guitar or whatever. It was like, no, I know that the person I've become the last 6 years could fucking be an insane guitar player, and I'm excited for that. So I made a goal. I'm going to play an hour a day. And within the first month, that became 2 hours. Then it became sometimes 2.5, 3 hours. Sometimes it became 4. But the thing I did was I didn't fall into like, let me make it 2 hours a day and let me make it 3. I was like, nope, I stay at an hour. And because of that, I've now been on 2 hours a day every single day, except when we went to Italy for a week, for the last 13 months. And a lot of times it ends up like on weekends, like 3+ hours. Now, during this whole process, like, how does this connect to what you were saying? During this whole process, there's been a part of me that's like, man, like I don't have a lot of stuff on my calendar. You know, I stopped doing sales calls last year because I just fucking hated doing them, because I was getting on the phone with a bunch of people that just needed to be convinced. And I'm like, I'm not a convincer, man. You either know or you don't. Like, I'm not here to take your money. Like, you either know this is right for you, you don't. That's who I like working with. So I just decided to lean into it. I'm like, okay, my calendar's a lot less full. Oh, what am I feeling? I'm feeling like, am I going to be successful? Oh my God. Oh, that's a pattern. Why do I feel like having my calendar full and working hard equals success? So I started to lean more into this. And recently in the last 6 months, you know, or even 3 months, I stopped kind of doing my podcast for now. You know, my life has become a lot of open space. And all that feels right for me is just fill that space with more guitar. Now, I have no idea where this is going. I don't have any goal to make money with guitar or anything. I have no idea. But I've just learned, like, can I be comfortable not having an end goal, not knowing right now, and just exploring? And I think that's what you were sharing, you know, so eloquently. And just to give you guys, you know, that story real quick. When I was 6 years
Every
old,
inch of your driveway. This
yeah,
is
the every inch of my driveway story. This is like, you know, peak me,
This is
guys.
the epitome of this Virgo moon, Virgo rising man.
Yeah. So when I was, and I'm also an Aries sun, so you have like that fire behind that, like really structure, you know, type thing. So when I was 6 years old, my parents' house was right behind my elementary school. So, you know, as a 6-year-old, you don't realize like that elementary school just probably has people from all around that part of town. It's not that far. People aren't driving from like 8 towns over to come to that elementary school. But I didn't know that. You know, the world is very big when you're 6. And so my mom one day told me this kid, Andrew Marino, could come over for a play date one day. And I had my mind blown at this because I was like, oh my God, like people that I know over there can come over here? Like, what? Okay. So I decided, no one told me this. I'm literally 6 years old. Like, I don't know where this came from. I have no idea. But I had gotten a bike and I had just learned to ride without training wheels, and I was really proud of it. I've always loved biking. It's one of my favorite things. My mountain bike is right over there. So I decided one day, it was a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and I decided that I was going to take my bike and I was going to ride it over every inch of the driveway. Now, my parents have a really long driveway and it goes in. It's a unique driveway. And I did this because I knew in my head that when Andrew came over, he'd say, wow, man, you have a cool driveway. And I could have the comeback of, yeah, thanks, man. I rode my bike over every inch of it. Now, I don't know where the fuck that came from, but that is like literally in the best and most fun times of my life. That is where I'm at. I'm riding my bike over every inch of the driveway, but not because of any other reason than I'm excited about the fact that I can do that. Now, again, like throughout my life, there have been many times where, like, you know, if we use that analogy, it was like I was riding my bike over every inch of the driveway because I thought I wasn't good enough, not enough, whatever. Now I feel like what this time of leaving open space in my calendar, whatever, has allowed me to do is reorient to just genuinely loving to ride my bike over every inch of a driveway, whether that's learning a new program, whether that's learning the quad cortex I just got for guitar. Like, I'm just genuinely excited to be there. And that has been what I really wanted to share with you guys, and what Rachel really wanted to share is like, this can be really fun, you know? And one thing I'll say also, not to go on a tangent here, but you got me on one now, Rach, is to be very aware of the fact that right now there are so many distractions in the world. And there are distractions that do matter, okay? Like the Epstein list, for instance, right? I think all of us have an insane, insatiable disgust for things like that, all right? And rightfully so. But please be aware of falling into the trap of you diverting from your mission to go talk about something that you as an individual have no ability to change. What the power
or that just talking about it won't change, because it's really about turning inward, like we've been talking about this whole time. Because getting to know your lessons, getting so strong in yourself so you can be that force that changes other people without trying, because there's just something about you. There's
Exactly.
something about you that is healing without doing anything. It's your presence because
And
you
that
owned it.
and that is going to make you magnetic. And what magnetism will do is probably make you, let's say, a lot of money. And with a lot of money and the right relations with self, the right understanding of the universe, and by right, I mean in accordance, like not distorted, right? A clear view. There are going to be a lot of people that want to be a part of whatever you're doing. And when you have a lot of the right people, heart-centered people, and you have a lot of this thing called money, well, now you actually do have an ability to change things on a physical level. Now, I don't know what that looks like. I don't have all the answers by any means, but I noticed a trend. As soon as the Epstein list started coming out, when I would make content, some random person would be like, "How dare you not be talking to blah, 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 blah." And just like you just said, the best thing I can do for myself is work on me. But paradoxically, the best thing I can do for you or anyone else is also work on me. Because, like
Because
we were
we're
talking
each
about
other,
earlier,
like we talked about in the beginning of the
well,
episode.
well also,
We
if,
didn't come
if
to control each other. We came here to learn about the experience of being ourselves.
exactly. And you know what makes people feel safe in the world? You know what everyone, whether it's Epstein or Bill Gates or whoever it is, you know what they're really looking for at the end of the day? They're looking to feel like home. Now, the challenge is that if you guys understand the negative and positive polarity, egocentric consciousness, what I would call force, can feel really good if you forget what God feels like. So you can mistake that feeling of like, that power you get when you like get one over on someone. You can mistake that as home. Now, these people don't realize they have mistaken that for home. They'd call you a fucking idiot if you
Well,
even
that's
said
why
that.
they need to keep doing bad things because they're leeching energy as opposed to
Exactly.
using sustainable energy, which is love, which is when you learn about yourself and come back to yourself and realize that it's all within you instead of needing to manipulate things outside of you and do bad things to other people to get it. So it's almost like you can take different paths while you're here. You can get all of your energy from other people and manipulating and different things like that, or you can get your energy by turning inward and following your energy so it builds. Because the less you follow your energy and you're in discipline, like if you were to ride every inch of the driveway, like Ryan said, because you don't think you're good enough, that's draining your energy. It might give you a spike the moment you hit the goal and then peter out. But riding over every inch because it's just fun and the energy's building and building and building, that's sustainable.
And, again, like if we think about individuals that have changed reality, right? Whether you look at someone like a Gandhi, you look at Jimi Hendrix, you look at, someone like I don't even know, like just anyone, right? The Beatles. You look at anyone that's really made a positive impact. Why? Like, is it because they were a musician? They made good music. They solved world hunger. Like, no, it's because the only reason that they were able to make music that touched so many people, the only reason they were able to create world peace or allow peace to get out there, someone like a Jesus, a Buddha, Gandhi, all of these people, is because they were remembering, and they were really good at remembering, and they forgot much less than other people, which is why everyone wanted to be around them. Now, if you ask these people, why do you want to be around them? Why do you want to go to their concerts? Why do you want to be around someone like Jesus? They probably wouldn't know. They'd just say, I feel really good around them. It's because these people are being anchors and they're holding the remembering of what reality truly is. That oneness is where we really are, and we're playing out a game here, and that's okay. It's comforting. And so now we talk about that quote again. The best thing I can do for me is work on me. The best thing I can do for you is work on me. So now, why is anyone choosing to just go online and complain about all the pain they don't want to think about versus running towards the pleasure of helping other people remember that, hey, at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of things that happen. You can choose to be Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker in this game. And at the end of the day, we all go back home to the same place. And God is learning about itself. And, again, these are what I would call high level teachings in the sense of it took me a long time to be able to see the negative polarity as anything other than just something that shouldn't be, because again, like these are atrocities, these are horrible things. But again, if you're believing that horrible things happen and there's no reason for it or whatever, you're going to wake up in a fucking nightmare. Okay.
Well, can I end on one thing too? Is we're all oysters or clams. I forget which ones actually make pearls.
Oysters.
Oysters. We're all oysters. So
Super oysters.
are
I hope I'm
clams?
right with that.
Not one of them, guys.
It's not clams. It's got to be oysters.
Okay. So the way
You
they
guys can now see while we're podcasting, not
the way
biologists.
the way they form pearls is by sand irritation. So actually, it's an internal irritation to their membrane that makes them start forming this pearl and cutting off that area. And the sand over time builds and builds till you get a beautiful pearl. The thing is the pearl doesn't just come out naturally. The pearl is a beautiful thing that stays inside the oyster. And every time you heal in it, it keeps the oyster alive. And it's beautiful. It's almost like you wouldn't have gotten that beauty without all of that friction and pain. But the thing is that beauty is not necessarily meant for other people. Like, this is really a journey about the oyster, or the journey about you. We came here to learn about love through contrast. And so we're going to have sand irritating us, but it's building a pearl inside you, a strength, an internal anchor. And everyone has different pearls. And I think we feel that pearl in other people. We might not be able to see it, but we can feel it. Just like, I don't know, I've never hunted oysters, but maybe when an oyster probably has some pearls in it. I don't know.
Intuitively, maybe you do. That's actually an interesting question. And if we think about this too, right? Like, I'll use Paul Chek as an example because he's triggering to some people. When I first found Paul, I was obsessed. There was just something in him that I loved. But a lot of people don't like Paul. Oh, he's got 2 wives. Oh, he's egocentric, whatever it may be. Are they right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and they're wrong? No, we're both right subjectively for what we need in this lifetime. He might not be the best teacher for them. So, again, can we come to a conclusion where instead of being like, oh, I hate that, or that's not good, can we just say, that's not for me?
It just all is.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
It all is, and it's all pathways for us to learn about beauty.
Yeah.
And love. Okay.
And
I love you, Bubby. I love you. This is a great episode. I think this is a good welcome back. One way that I have found so helpful to connect to myself using astrology is tracking my lunar returns. And so that's why I have my Certainty Oracle, which is an AI I built, which is so powerful for me because it goes deeper than just looking at my lunar return. It looks at the moon phase. It layers over my natal chart, which I look at our birth chart as our lifelong lessons, and my solar return chart, which is our year-long lessons. And it tells me what my lessons are for my lifetime and my year that month. And it has literally been my number one tool to find my own internal boundaries. And so I'm offering it to you now. If you would like it, it's only $47. I'll put it in the show notes down there. And if you want to find my lovely partner in crime, where do you want them to find you?
You guys can check me out on Instagram at The Real Ryan Sprague. I do have 2 podcasts, but I'm not currently running them, but they have probably, 300 plus episodes over there at the Highly Optimized podcast and the This One Time on Psychedelics podcast. And I'll, share this, that, like I said earlier in the show, I don't know astrology like Rachel does. Okay. And maybe you guys are like Rachel, maybe you're like me, but regardless, the Certainty Oracle has been insanely helpful for me, because for me, I'm not obsessed with astrology the way Rachel is. I have other things that, have helped me and whatever that I just nerd out on. But, for me, when it comes to astrology, I want to hop in, get what I want, and hop out. And that's what the Certainty Oracle for me has been really good at, because I could choose to stay in there for hours if I want to and get incredible help. But I don't need to if I have other stuff like guitar or whatever I want to do. And that to me is what makes this an award-winning product, is that somehow Rachel has found a way that for the astrology buffs that love this shit, that live for it, yeah, it's going to do that for you. It's going to give you amazing feedback. But also for the people like me that are like, oh, astrology is cool, but I don't really understand it. I don't have to understand it to really understand what it tells me and relate it to my own life in a way that makes sense to me. And so if you guys are either one of those archetypes, you're going to love the Certainty Oracle. And for me, I would pay easily $1,000 for that. The ability of that to take so much information from me and break it down into bite-sized chunks that I can immediately integrate into my life is invaluable. So seriously, if you guys are looking for something that's going to change your fucking life and you want it at an insane rate, go check it out. All right. What's the best thing that could happen when you dive deeper into yourself? So thank you.
Thanks for your pitch, Bubby. I love that. Love you. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Let me know what you think of this episode because I'll keep having Ryan on. And
Yeah, let me know if you guys like me. All right, my
I
self-confidence.
mean, I can't imagine who wouldn't. Everyone loves Ryan, but I'm just saying we're back and let us know what you think.
Yes, love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.